Lisboa, cidade amiga que és, meu berço de embalar, ensina-me uma cantiga das que tu sabes cantar. Uma cantiga singela, daquelas de enfeitiçar, para eu cantar na janela quando o meu amor passar. Sempre que Lisboa canta, não sei se canta, não sei se reza, na sua voz com carinho, canta baixinho sua tristeza. Sempre que Lisboa canta, a gente encanta.
Porto, the city of wine. Porto is a breath of fresh air, beautiful every day from every vantage point. Oozing culture and authenticity, the city presents monumental history, contains both quaint and exclusive shopping areas, and invites you to stroll along its waterside promenades. This charming city, with its exquisite historical centre recognised as a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Site, is just the beginning of our Portuguese wines adventure. Porto, Portugal's second largest city, located in the northwest of the country and set by the shores of the Douro River, unfolds along the riverbank and the seashore. Often surrounded and invaded, but always remaining unvanquished, the city of Porto really is a living heritage, a destination that regenerates and reinvents itself while maintaining its core character grounded in unshakable granite, and port, of course. Port wine is the most prestigious and international of all Portuguese wines. It's a fortified wine, produced exclusively in the Alto Douro region, the first demarcated and regulated wine region in the world since 1756. Described by UNESCO as a living and evolving cultural landscape of outstanding beauty. Port stands out from other wines because of its incomparably rich and intense aroma, a long finish both on the nose and the palate, a wide range of sweetness and colour, and a high level of alcohol content, generally between 19 to 22%. Thanks to the different types of port wines, with wonderfully distinct characteristics, the possible pairings are numerous, and sometimes unexpected and surprising.
Pictures. My pictures suck, I'm not even gonna try. Portugal?
Maybe.
Or maybe no.
Opposite Porto, on the south bank of the Douro River, lies Vila Nova de Gaia, or, as the locals call it, Gaia. For much of its lifetime, Gaia has been renowned for its port cellars, the number and variety of which is quite bewildering. The fortified port wine would arrive here by water from the east until the 1950s, when the wine started arriving by truck, and it is stored in vast numbers of oak barrels in warehouses that line the banks of the river. Many of the lodges have English names, Sandemans, Grahams, and so on, going back to when Britain turned to port after sanctions were placed on French wine in the 1700s. We start our alcoholic odyssey by making a pilgrimage to the cellars of Sandemans, preparing ourselves for an extended period of imbibing.
Port, that's always been his favorite. And I've always been, not to take care of you, but the ports I've tried here, very different.
Very different from what I used to it.
Yeah, it's just so much better.
Following our first trip to the cellars, we embark on a delightful private guided tour of the Douro River Valley with our guide, André.
My sister, she loses everything as well. But she has, she thinks she has a guardian angel, probably she has many.
November is the wettest month in Porto and the Douro Valley, and naturally that meant that our tour was marked by the constant companion of raindrops. However, that did not stop us from enjoying a fabulous tour of vineyards, or quintas as they are known in Portuguese, and a scenic Rebelo boat tour from Pinhao, taking in the sights of the region. Pinhao lies between the tranquil riverbed of the Douro and the outlet of one of its tributaries, the Pinhao River. With origins in the 19th century, the village is right in the centre of the Douro demarcated region, and it is here that many of the port wine producing estates operate. Sabrosa, a short drive to the north of Pinhao, was the birthplace of Ferdinand Magellan, who was born there in 1480. The area where most river cruise ships dock is situated just alongside the Douro River, and Pinhao has constructed a nice oceanfront walk of sorts to allow visitors to stroll casually along its banks, assuming you don't mind walking through the occasional parking lot. The quaint village of Provzan, with a history dating back to Moorish times when Zayd, brother of King Jahil of Toledo, lived in the castle of São Domingos in the Villa of Provzan, is where we stopped for lunch. It is said that one day the castle was attacked by Christian forces, and the Moors perished, but Zayd escaped only later to be captured, tortured, and eventually murdered.
So even the subways, if you go on the oldest subway line,
Provzan is said to have derived its name from the fact that during Zayd's last moments of suffering, it was exclaimed, "Pro Zayd! Pro Zayd!" hence the resulting Provzan. The next day, back in Porto, it was time to return to Gaia and make our second pilgrimage to the famed cellars. This time, it was to Ramos Pinto and Freirega, where Kerry could star in our Godfather scene. If Porto is the city of wine, well then, Lisboa is the city of hills. As one of the oldest cities in Western Europe, Lisbon is a feast of historic wonders. From epic hillside views to haunting fado music, cobbled laneways with towering flights of stairs, UNESCO World Heritage sites that sit alongside rowdy bars, and an atmosphere and nightlife that just never stops, Lisbon provides endless sights, sounds, and experiences. Transportation itself is an experience. Lisbon's historic trams let you experience a transportation system that's been going strong since the 19th century. From the famous and historic Tram 28 that connects Martim Moniz with Campo Ourique via the classic remodelado trams to the modern articulado trams on Route 15 that connect central Lisbon with the Belem district, traveling on the tram system in Lisbon is unforgettable. The district of Belem lies to the west of Lisbon, along the banks of the Tejo River. Historically, the shipyards of Lisbon were situated in Belem, and it was here that Vasco da Gama spent his last night before his voyage of discovery to India. The E15 tram provided us with transportation from central Lisbon, where we were staying, to the sites of this amazing location. We started our tour at the Torre de Belém, where we were treated to a virtuoso violin performance. This fort, constructed at the height of the Manueline style of architecture, guarded the Tejo estuary since the 16th century. Decorating the fort are Arabic-styled watchtowers, battlements adorned with a cross of Christ, and the earliest carving of a rhinoceros in Europe. The Tower of Belém was constructed using Lio's limestone stone blocks, which were surplus offcuts from the Mosteiro dos Hieronymus that was being constructed at the same time. They say that fado is the soul of Lisbon, and indeed the music is characterized by mournful tunes and lyrics, providing the perfect musical canvas upon which to paint your experience of the city. Fado is typically found in pubs, cafes, and restaurants in the streets of Lisbon, where you can relax and enjoy some fine Portuguese cuisine while being treated to a musical experience unlike anything else. Whether it's going to the time-out market in Mercado da Ribeira near Cais do Sodré, cycling the streets of Lisbon on a city bike, or riding a funicular, the strains of fado music playing in the back of your mind serve as a fitting backdrop to the sights, sounds, and experiences of exploring the city. Lisbon is a city that doesn't sleep. The ever-present street performers provide an incredible tapestry of vibrance both day and night. Whether it be a violin concert outside a historical landmark, the beat of a flamenco guitar in Santa Catarina, or the athletic feats of a group of breakdancers outside a Brasileira in Chiado, you're guaranteed to be entertained as you walk the city. The hills of Sintra are to the streets of Lisbon what Mount Everest is to the Matterhorn. Both are steep, both are spectacular, but the hills of Sintra make those in Lisbon seem flat. There are no easy walks in Sintra. However, the spectacular scenery and sights make it well worth the visit. Our day trip to Sintra started by taking the red line of Lisbon's train station from Rossio to Sintra train station. One of our things is to climb to as high a point as we can in each city we visit, and Sintra was no exception. Greeted by enthusiastic tuk-tuk drivers upon arrival in Sintra, they expressed disbelief that we would walk up the hills. Naively, we thought that it was all an effort to get us to purchase a ride with them. Trust me when I tell you that the walk up to the Pena Palace was hard. Following hard on the heels of our trek up to Pena Palace, we headed to the Castelo dos Mouros. Constructed on an exposed rocky outcrop, the high vantage point provided the Moors a strategic view along the coastline and surrounding lands. In 1147, Christian crusaders stormed the castle, leaving it to subsequent ruin. In the 19th century, King Ferdinand II partially restored the battlements and transformed it into a showpiece in the grounds of the Pena Palace. Fortunately, downhill from the Castle of the Moors lies Quinta da Regaleira. While Sintra is filled with many extravagant 19th century villas, many of which are still lived in, few are more intriguing than the Quinta da Regaleira. The original owner was a wealthy Brazilian mining magnate who was fascinated by the secretive religious orders of the Knights Templar and Freemasons, and let his imagination run wild during construction of the villa, including an initiation well with a spiral staircase descending to the base of the well, where a Templar cross is inscribed in the floor. Leading off from the well are a series of tunnels ending in a waterfall. At the base of the hills lies the historic town of Sintra. The town itself is fascinating, filled with narrow alleys, flights of stairs, and tourist-focused stores selling all kinds of souvenirs. After a day spent climbing the hills surrounding the town, it's well worth the time to walk around the town, taking in the sights, sounds, and atmosphere of the region. Whether it's walking the streets, shopping for souvenirs, or taking in the breathtaking scenery, Sintra's mansions, castles, and street life on display provided us with some of the most fascinating attractions of our trip. That said, it's not an easy task to pick favorites from the various places we visited on our vacation. Back in Lisbon, our adventure in Portugal was drawing to a close. The remaining time was spent in a whirlwind of walking, climbing stairs, riding trams, and dining out in the many spectacular restaurants that seemed to be peppered along every street in every area of the city from Chiado through to Alfama. There are many attractions and sights to mention in Lisbon, and in Portugal as a whole, and what we saw was just the briefest of glimpses into a many-coloured land filled with an incredible wealth of history. While our time in Portugal has come to an end, we're looking forward to our next great adventure, mountain biking in the deserts of Morocco. Join us next year for an all-new episode of Andy and Kerry's Adventures in Travel.